Uh-oh. Motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. IBF featherweight champion Nina Meinke vows to come back stronger and defend her title post-spinal surgery. It's a tall order, a tall ask. Never before has the Brave Ring moniker more perfectly applied to Nina Meinke. The comeback trail continues outside the ring for the IBF featherweight champion, who is recovering from emergency spinal surgery. Germany's Meinke, 20-3 with 4 knockouts, suffered a herniated disc that severely impacted her mobility and, at the risk of permanent damage, to her right leg. At the time of her surgery, Meinke was given a bleak 20% chance for a full recovery. Literally a fighter to the end, she insists that not only will she one day return to full strength, but also to the ring.
Jesus, just 20%?
Over the past 10 weeks, I have been recovering from a herniated disc. Meinke told Boxing Scene it was definitely a shock, especially not knowing whether or not I will be able to move the same as before. But this has not stopped me from dedicating myself to my rehabilitation. Meinke last fought on May 10th, when she earned a repeat win over Daniela Bermudez in Rostock, Germany. The unanimous decision win came 8 months after Meinke edged Bermudez via majority decision to win the then vacant IBF title. Amanda Serrano remains the division's lineal WBA and WBO champion, but agreed to vacate her IBF title, which allowed Meinke to compete for the belt as the designated mandatory challenger. The first win over Bermudez realized the career-long dream of Meinke's to claim a major title, which came in her second attempt. Meinke previously fell just short to then unbeaten IBF champion Sarah Mahfoud in their April 2022 title fight. Sometime later, after the second fight with Daniela Bermudez, Meinke noticed visible pain but was uncertain of the cause. She was then advised by medical professionals that emergency surgery was necessary for fear of permanent paralysis. I know many people were wondering why I suddenly disappeared from the public eye. Meinke informed her fans in a July 21st update via official statement, "The truth is, I was enduring the worst pain of my life. It was a total shock to find out I needed immediate surgery, with just a 20% chance for a full recovery. I was right in the middle of planning a major new project and talking about future fights when I got the news. Right now, my only goal is to take it step by step, getting back to life and hopefully back into the ring." Fast forward to present day, and Meinke is more determined than ever to literally beat the odds. "I have invested a lot of time in medical exercises and physical therapy," the reigning champion further explained to Boxing Scene. "I am starting to return to training to come back stronger and defend my title." Given the grave nature of her injury, her surgery, the prognosis, will she be able to come back fast enough for the IBF, who, as we all know, are sticklers for the rules?
They haven't stripped her of her title yet. She's still IBF champion, ranked at number 1. Is recent MVP signee Elizabeth Oshoba, who was supposed to be fighting Melissa Parker this weekend, but for whatever reason, that fight has been canceled.
She's ranked at number 1, and having seen her in action, Elizabeth Oshoba of Nigeria is a near and apparent threat to Nina Meinke,
if Nina is so forced to fight Elizabeth via the IBF. The same applies to Canada's own Caroline Vieira.
Caroline has been on a hot streak since having suffered her first loss a few fights ago. She's been looking more and more capable, more and more dominant, and if Nina finds herself under orders to fight Caroline Vieira, I'm sorry to say, she will lose the blue belt.
Will the IBF give Nina enough time to fully recover? Can she fully recover? The doctors give her just a 20% chance of making a full recovery. I hate to say it, but that is a very bleak prognosis.
The fights with these two aforementioned fighters, Elizabeth Oshoba and Caroline Vieira, are difficult enough for a fighter in full health, but for a fighter who's recovering, who may not come back at 100%, I'm sorry to say, if Nina has to fight either of them, she loses the belt and she loses the fight. And I really like Nina. I admire her resolve. But it looks like her reign as IBF champion will have ended before it even really started.
It's really between a rock and a hard place, but the Ortiz fight probably gets talked about more, puts you more in discussion for things. Although, Murtazaliev, as difficult of a fight as it is, if you come back as the IBF world light middleweight champion, I mean, you really hold a lot of cards because Lubin is a big name in the sport. So becoming a world champion in a weight class that is full of talent but doesn't have a lot of big names suddenly possibly makes him the major guy at the weight class. So there's a lot to consider. It's not an easy thing to consider for sure. I mean, it's sometimes you say, oh, I wish I had that problem because, both fights probably pay well, but it's not, I don't know if I really want that problem. It's not, there's other problems you might want in boxing. Boxing is full of problems, but I don't know, man. It's not an easy thing to decide on here. Either way, he's in tough, and of course, you're at this level to make money and to accomplish things. And the only way you do that is against tough opposition. And certainly at 154, you don't have to search too many places to find tough opposition.
Paulie Malignaggi described this as a good problem to have, having to choose between a title fight with Bakram or a more high-profile fight with Virgil. If it was a problem, it's not a problem that Erickson has anymore. Per a tweet from Dan Raphael, no surprise, but today's Murtazaliev versus Lubin bid for the mandatory IBF junior middleweight title fight was cancelled. Lubin withdrew and will instead fight WBC interim champion Virgil Ortiz. No surprises there. We knew this was coming down the pipeline. We knew this was what the holdup was. It's funny because Paulie said that both fights probably pay well. No, they don't.
The Murtazaliev fight may have been for a title, but the fight that pays better is the Ortiz fight. Ask yourself, what would have compelled Erickson Lubin to walk away from a title shot? What could have?
Money.
Not that fighting Virgil Ortiz pays out life-altering money, but it pays more than a Bakram fight. It does pay more than a Bakram-Murtazaliev fight, who I don't even know was going to pay for anyway. I don't know who was going to foot the bill for that fight. That's why it was had to do a purse bid. And if it would have made it there, who was going to bid on it? I'm not sure if Erickson Lubin is still with the PBC and Bakram. He's with Main Events, but Main Events don't have a broadcast partner.
No broadcast partner, no money. No money to put up to finance the fight. So the Bakram fight wasn't going to pay Erickson what he now stands to make with Virgil. On the Golden Boy Promotions side of things, Erickson was a fighter that you normally saw boxing on PBC shows, but his last fight wasn't on PBC, it was on ProBox.
And we've been all through that. Now that Erickson Lubin has officially walked away, what the IBF is likely to do is comb through their ranks for someone else that Bakram can fight. The highest ranked available contender, whoever that is. That's what's in store for him. What's in store for Erickson?
Erickson sports a professional record of 27 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 19 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 29 professional bouts to young Virgil Ortiz, who sports an unblemished record of 23 wins with no losses, no draws, and 21 knockouts.
Battle of the Southpaws. Erickson Lubin is a southpaw. Virgil Ortiz is a southpaw.
I don't actually hate this fight for Virgil. If not for the posturing and the back and forth with Xander Zayas and all of that, if you told me that Virgil was going to keep busy with Erickson in spite of that production, I don't hate this fight.
I don't hate Virgil Ortiz.
Now, what I do hate is the waste of time. The overabundance of gossips in the American boxing scene, all for fights that weren't going to happen anyway, aren't going to happen anytime in the near future. Ortiz versus Zayas was never going to happen on this kind of schedule. It was never going to happen this year, so that when it doesn't, I'm not disappointed. I'm not let down. But if they can get Virgil back out there one more time before the year is out, that's welcome news. Erickson Lubin, at this point, is a veteran who's been around a long time. He's won some fights, he's lost some fights.
He's a boxer, Erickson Lubin. He's a mover. He's not a brawler. He's not a mauler. That's Virgil.
Virgil continues to make his bones in the junior middleweight division, facing seasoned junior middleweights. I wish we were seeing that from Jaron Ennis
Boots.
I think this is going to be a bigger version of the Michael McKinson fight. You will recall that Virgil Ortiz faced southpaw Michael McKinson in the welterweight division before he left, and Michael was a mover. Michael was a jabber. It took Virgil approximately 9 rounds to finally wear down and wear out Michael McKinson in the welterweight division. How long will it take him to do that with Erickson Lubin, who is noticeably bigger? You will see shades, just shades of that fight in this one, because it's the same dynamic.
The pessimistic view. Erickson Lubricant is a boxer, not a knockout merchant. You understand? I'm not saying he's pillow-fisted, but he's not exactly the strongest finisher. On the Golden Boy Promotions side of things, he cannot hope to win a points decision.
I'm just being honest. The most that he can hope for is a draw on the cards. He has to stop Virgil to win the fight, and I'm not sure that he can. I would sooner go with Virgil to stop Erickson than the other way around. Virgil is the finisher after all. He's the brawler, he's the mauler, he's the guy with all the knockouts.
Even if many of them were in the welterweight division, if there's a puncher here, I feel like it's Virgil more than Erickson.
Gotta give the edge to the house fighter. That may seem generic and that may seem boring and predictable, but that's how boxing is sometimes. Virgil's got the edge.
Unless something unexpected happens, I have Virgil winning the fight.
In men's heavyweight news, Francis Ngannou expects Deontay Wilder talks to begin soon. Not surprised. I'm not surprised that at Ngannou's stage in his career and Wilder's, what might make the most sense for them is another circus fight, another crossover fight. Francis Ngannou has been calling for a boxing match with Deontay Wilder for some time, and if the MMA star is to be believed, there will be at last a conversation between the two. We haven't engaged personally, but it's going to be soon, Ngannou said on Monday's episode of the Ariel Hawaii show. We are setting some things up. This conversation has been going on for at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. A potential Ngannou versus Wilder fight, presumably in a boxing ring, as boxing pays a lot better than mixed martial farts. Ngannou was the UFC heavyweight champion before departing the world's leading MMA promotion in early 2023, 2 years ago. He soon signed with the PFL,
the Professional Fighters League. But Ngannou, a 38-year-old from Cameroon, has since had more bouts in the boxing ring than within the mixed martial arts cage. In his pro boxing debut, Ngannou challenged then heavyweight champion Tyson Fury in October of 2023, surprisingly dropping Fury in the 3rd round and leaving with the short end of a close split decision verdict, but a moral victory that he was able to go the distance with arguably the best heavyweight at the time, at least in boxing.
to some people, not me. Those who believed that outcome was partially the result of Fury taking Ngannou lightly had their beliefs bolstered by what happened in Ngannou's next boxing match in March of last year. Anthony Joshua dropped Ngannou 3 times in 2 rounds for a one-sided knockout win. Ngannou then dealt with the worst of personal tragedies in April of last year when his 15-month-old son died. Ngannou returned to MMA last October, dominating Reynan Ferreira for a first-round stoppage win and capturing the PFL's heavyweight title in the process. Ngannou's MMA record is 18-3, with 17 wins by way of knockout or submission. Wilder, meanwhile, is the 3rd member of the triumvirate that once ruled boxing's heavyweight division before the Alexander Usyk era. Fury, Joshua were the other 2. Wilder, 44-4 with 1 draw and 43 knockouts, had his 5-year run as heavyweight champion come to an end in February of 2020 when he lost his rematch to Tyson Fury via a 7th-round TKO. Wilder fought valiantly in a war with Fury in their third fight in October of the following year, trading knockdowns and heavy blows before succumbing in the 11th round. There was little shame in losing to the best heavyweight in the world at that time, and perhaps being no worse than second best, but the damage Wilder took in his 2 defeats to Fury, plus inactivity, plus the slowing that comes with age, began to show. Wilder, understandably, took a year to recover from Fury, returning with a 1-round knockout win over Robert Helenius in October of the following year, his old sparring partner, and Wilder didn't fight again for another 14 months, which meant he had logged all of 3 minutes of in-ring time in a span of more than 2 years. He was outboxed in a decision loss to Joseph Parker in December of 2023, and then suffered a highlight reel knockout at the hands of Zile Chang in June of 2024. After another year-long layoff, Wilder came back this past June and scored a 7th-round TKO win over the 24-5 Tyrell Anthony Herndon. Before the Herndon bout, Wilder was asked about Ngannou in an interview with Ariel Helwani and Ade Oladipo, to which Wilder responded, "I am definitely interested," Wilder said at that time. He also said at that time that he meant to become a 2-time heavyweight champion. I don't see that happening for Wilder based on the current landscape and the current crop of heavyweights that are out there in tandem with Wilder's current condition. I don't think he can win another title at heavyweight, but he can cash out with Francis Ngannou.
Cash out, so to speak. There are questions that need answers. If Wilder and Francis are to box, who's going to pay for it? Because we know who paid for Ngannou versus Fury. That was Turkey. Would Turkey also be paying for this? Because if he's not, I think these guys are going to have a problem.
Is Turkey still interested in these sort of circus, MMA versus boxing crossover fights? Is he still willing to finance them? Because if he's not financing this one, where is the money supposed to come from? Is there some other wealthy sheik out there somewhere in the Middle East that's willing to pay these 2 guys to do the dance?
It's not established that Turkey would be paying for this, but somebody has to. And the only point in doing it for Francis and for Deontay is if it offers up big money. But who's going to put it up? And how are they going to bill it? Are they going to bill this as a pay-per-view? Because at this time, both mixed martial arts and boxing are moving away from the pay-per-view model, pay-per-view sales not being robust.
Would seem that interest is down simultaneously. Piracy is at an all-time high. So maybe it's not that interest is down and people just don't want to pay. They don't want to pay through the nose just to see 2 guys beat each other up. They're tired of doing that.
2 guys that are past their prime. Very little remains of what used to be Deontay Wilder's core supporters. When he fought in Wichita, Kansas, it wasn't so much as a blip on the radar of boxing. And Francis is right up there. He's not getting any younger.
Do people want to see this?